expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJS, board, staff, or underwriters.
Good day, and welcome to Ability Radio. My name is Kishma B. Francis. I am one of your hosts. Ability Radio is brought to you by the Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands. We have two locations, one on St. Croix next to the former Kmart West, and the other one on St. Thomas above Deli Deck. I have a special guest with me today. Her name is Diana Autin. Diana, if you could just introduce yourself to our listening audience.
Thank you, Kishma. I'm Diana Autin, and I am the Senior Program Director for Organizational Capacity Building Programs at the SPAN Parent Advocacy Network. I'm also a parent. I raised 4 adopted children, and I have a wonderful granddaughter who's 19 years old and in college.
So Diana is my technical assistance advisor under the PTI, the Parent Training Information Center, and she has a wealth of knowledge. Diana, if you could just tell us about your advocacy.
Well, I actually I've been an advocate really all my life. The first memory I have of being with my mother that wasn't directly in our family was going door knocking with her in 1963 with fair housing petitions in California. She was activist around civil rights and women's rights. And that was before the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So before there was a law that prohibited racial discrimination in housing or in any area. And so that was when I was 9 years old. I was engaged as an advocate in many different areas against students' rights, civil rights, women's rights, and became an attorney in 1977 because I knew that I wanted to take the law and give information about how to use the law, how to understand the law, and how to use the law to people whose rights were being violated. My parents always wanted me to be a teacher, and so I have honored that goal by teaching people how to use the law to be able to get justice. In the last over 40 years, I have been focused on the area of education and health for children and families, and particularly for those children and families who face the greatest barriers to getting what they need and who have the poorest outcomes. And of course, that includes children, youth, and young adults with disabilities and their families.
Awesome. And I know Diana, she said a lot about herself, but I want to say some more about her. When I first became the project director at the PTI, I really didn't know what I was doing. But Diana is the one that actually showed me it was okay to make it my own and bring my out of the box ideas to the PTI and to just help my community. And I applaud her for that. Diana, let's talk about the importance of parents as advocates.
Well, I can talk about this from personal experience, Kishma, having raised children who had a range of disabilities and special healthcare needs, faced many challenges. Again, my children were all adopted. My older children were 5 when they came to live with us and had already experienced a lot of very challenging situations in their lives. And so I know that being involved on a day-to-day basis with making sure that they were prepared for school and that they had the services and supports that they needed at school, and that I had a good relationship with the teacher was really critical to them being successful. I still remember the first day that the first son that we adopted when he was 5, he was actually 5.5. And the first day that he went to school, when he was living with us, he came back with a note from the teacher that said, "We really need to talk." And so I went in, and the teacher, who had been teaching for like 30 years, said that he was the worst behaved, 5-year-old kindergartner that she had ever had in 30 years of teaching. And at that moment, the importance of my role as a parent and my advocacy for him really became crystal clear. I was very, very lucky that she was telling me that, not because she was trying to get him out of her classroom, but because she wanted us to become strong partners in working on the knowledge and skills that he had to have in order to be successful, both at home and at school. And so I know that if I had not been an advocate for him and for all my children, I know that the situations that they faced would not have been met with the same kind of evidence-based practices and positive, meaningful directions from the professionals that worked with them, because I saw on a daily basis what happened when I was there. And I'll give one other example, which was when one of my daughters was in her last year of high school and was feeling a lot of concern about kind of going off to college. And this is something that happens a lot with children who are adopted, that they wanna grow up and they wanna be independent, but they also kind of fear it because of the abandonment issues that they face. And she was really struggling in an honors history class, and the teacher was really not respecting the reality of her emotional challenges at that time. And I went up the chain of command. First I went to the teacher, and then I went to the principal, and then I went to the director of special services in the district. And by going up the chain of command, I was able to get what she needed, and she was able to graduate and then go to college and now have a wonderful job helping nonprofit organizations all over the world. So I saw the importance not just when my children were young, but also when my children were older. And of course, doing this work for over 40 years, focused around parents advocating for their children in education and health, I see constantly the what happens when children don't have parents advocating for them and what happens when parents are advocating for their children. And there's never a situation where children do better and get more of what they need when their parents are not involved. It's absolutely critical that parents be involved. And part of that is also parents being involved in helping to prepare their children to be able to advocate on their own behalf.
Yes.
At some point, our youth and our young adults grow up and they have the right to make decisions for themselves. And if we don't help prepare them to be able to do that, then they won't be able to make the decisions, or they won't make good decisions. And then all of that time and effort and energy and resources that we've poured into them to prepare them for adulthood will really just go by the wayside. So from a very young age, we really need to be allowing and encouraging and supporting and educating our children and youth to be able to be self-advocates as they hit adulthood. And I think another thing that's important about that is that we can't be with our children all the time. We're not with them during the school day, for example. And there's a lot that can happen at school that we don't witness, or that we don't hear, we don't see or hear. And so if our children are not prepared to be able to stand up for themselves and also to stand up for their peers and support their peers, then a lot can happen at the school that can discourage them, or that can result in them not getting what they need, and we wouldn't even know about it. So part of what we have to do from the start is help our children also be able to be good advocates. And I'm not just saying this from my own personal experience, both as a parent and as a professional, but also the research is very clear that one of the strongest components of having a successful life for a child with a disability is an engaged parent who partners with professionals to make good decisions and advocates to make sure that those decisions are carried out.
Yes, I totally agree with you. When I go to the IEP meetings for students, especially those in high school, I always remind them that they always have a seat at the table. They always have a seat at the table at their IEP meetings, and this is their opportunity to advocate for themselves. Who knows better than what they want or what they need than the student? So I agree with you, Diana. What about support groups?
Well, I have to say, one of the most wonderful things about working at an organization where I work at the Span Parent Advocacy Network, which is the PTI in New Jersey, is that we have a built-in support group because we have so many staff that are also parents of children with disabilities and special healthcare needs that we can talk to about our challenges. I don't know how I could have survived when our oldest son, when he was a teenager, when he ran away. I don't know how I could have survived without the support of the people that I worked with and that could just give me a hug, let me talk about the fears and the sadness that I had and really provide me with that support. And at SPAN, we facilitate many different support groups. We facilitate support groups around education, we facilitate support groups around health, we facilitate support groups around child welfare and juvenile justice. And I think one of the most exciting and meaningful aspects of support groups is the fact that you are there with other people who are walking the same walk that you are walking. And some of them are further along the way than you are and can give you some great ideas, and others are not as far along as you are, and you can give them great ideas. And even those that have not gone as far as you have gone, they also can have great ideas. And the ideas that people can share in support groups, as well as the emotional support, which is so important. This is hard, hard work.
Yes.
It's
Yes, it
hard
is.
raising your children even if they don't have a disability. But raising a child with a disability is even harder. There's so many other barriers in your way. You can't do it on your own. It's just not possible. Even if you have a partner, it's really not even possible to do it as two parents because there are so many challenges and situations that you may not have been prepared for. Eh, even to the point where just knowing about the resources that might exist that could support you in order to get over the barriers that you are facing. So I think support groups are one of the most valuable resources that parents can access. And and I think not only are you going to get a benefit out of it, but you're also going to help others. And that's really important too. The stronger we all are as a community of parents, the stronger each one of us is individually.
Yes, and I'm glad you spoke about the support groups because we have a parent guide in our office and it's free online and it actually lists different support groups within our territory. So anyone that would like it, they can just go on the website and download it. Well, you talked about different resources. Let's talk about those different resources that are available to parents with students with disabilities.
Well, I want the first resource that I want to mention is the parentcenterhub.org. That's parentcenterhub.org. So at SPAN, we house the National Technical Assistance Center that provides resources and support to the over 90 parent centers around the country, like the Disability Rights Center of the U.S. Virgin Islands. And on that website, you can find on the website of the Center for Parent Information and Resources, you can find videos, written documents, fact sheets, manuals, mini guides in multiple languages focused on every aspect of early intervention, special education, and transition to adult life. And all of those resources have been vetted by other parents who have reviewed them and said, this resource is clear, it's understandable, it's useful, it's helpful, it's high quality. And so all the resources that you find on parentcenterhub.org are great resources that you can use in order to hone your own advocacy skills. The website also includes information from other technical assistance centers that are funded by the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Special Education Programs, like Cadre, which has great resources around how to prevent and resolve disputes. The National Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center, which has amazing resources around early childhood, child development, early intervention, preschool special education. the National Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports Technical Assistance Center, which has great resources to be used at home and school around positive behavior supports for children with challenging behavior. DAISY, which has great information about the early childhood special education and early intervention data and how to understand it and how to use it in advocacy to improve early childhood systems that impact children with disabilities. So you can find links to all of those websites at parentcenterhub.org. So that's the first place I would go. Obviously, I think it's really important to also access the resources available from your own parent center, like the Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands. They have great resources that they can offer, individual advocacy, training, resources on their website. And they also partner with the Family to Family Health Information Center of the U.S. Virgin Islands, which is housed at Beyond Visions. And their focus is more on the kind of health issues involving children with special health care needs. I think other places you can find resources on the U.S. Department of Education's website. They also have guidance for schools, school districts, states, and parents about the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the statute and its regulations, and also how that is interpreted by the U.S. Department of Education and also by courts that have interpreted the law. And many of those resources on the website are available in a question and answer format, which I think makes it easier for parents and professionals to understand and to use. And then the last thing that I would say is disability-specific organizations. So if your child has a specific disability or special healthcare need, accessing the resources of a disability-specific group that really has a lot of expertise in that particular disability, can also be very helpful. And so Parent Center Hub, U.S. Department of Education website, the Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands, your own parent center, the Family to Family Health Information Center at Beyond Visions, and I think those, and then disability-specific organizations are, I would say, some of the top resources that are available for families. There's also, I want to say one other thing, which is that if your child has particular genetic conditions, there's also some great resources for families who have children with specific genetic conditions. And along with disability-specific organizations, sometimes those genetic-specific organizations can really give you information that even the doctors and the other professionals in your child's life might not be aware of, because they are always accessing the most current, up-to-date information.
Thank you, Diana. And you spoke about the Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands and our services. I just wanted to expand on that a little bit. We do offer trainings, and what we've seen with the parents who have come to our trainings is they have been advocating more. They have been better advocates for themselves and their children. And so now when it comes to the complaint process, the parents are going straight to the complaint process by themselves. If they call us for a little guidance. And then up until it gets to the due process, that's when we step in. But those parents that have been receiving training from us, they have been advocating for themselves and their children.
Keisha,
Go ahead.
Keisha, I just wanted to follow up quickly on that. So I think one of the most important things to understand and to really make yourself believe is that you have power as a parent. Parents have power and parents have capacity. Parents can do a lot with a little bit of help. We at SPAN, we have a whole cadre of parent volunteers. We call them our SPAN resource parents. They go through a 6-part training, and then they help other families in their community. They share resources. They go with parents to meetings. They help, comfort parents that are dealing with challenging situations at school. And the response that we get from the families that are helped by our parent, our SPAN resource parents who are parents, is very positive. And sometimes it just takes somebody to be by your side at that challenging meeting that's full of so many professionals and you're there by yourself. Or sometimes it just takes somebody else to tell you their story of how they overcame a barrier to give you the strength that you need. Sometimes they may have a tip or a tool. And so I think Parents sometimes say, "What can I do? I'm just a parent." But there's no such thing as just a parent. Parents are leaders, and parents can do amazing things with just a little bit of help. And when they support each other, fabulous things can happen.
Yes, yes, definitely. And we have seen where parents have supported each other and they've gone to the IEP meetings with each other, and we're just happy for that because we need that type of support, especially in our community. So, Diana, how can we assist our parents and students to become better advocates?
I think, one of the things that you already do is you do workshops. I think it's really critical for parents and students to know what the law says, what the law and the regulations say, to understand, how they've been interpreted. And so the knowledge about how the law operates and how the school system operates or the early intervention system operates, but also to help parents and students gain skills to be able to articulate their strengths and their needs, or the strengths and needs of their child, to be able to communicate effectively, both orally and in writing, to be able to listen, really carefully to hear what it is that the professionals are saying, to be able to put aside predetermined positions on issues and really to get down to the underlying interests that should bring us together, which is what is best for this child, for this student, and how are we going to help maximize the development and educational success of this child and student. I think we can help parents and students by providing them with training and with information. I think one of the things that's very important is the opportunity to practice and to try out that new knowledge and that skills. One of the things that we do when we're on a phone with a parent and talking to them about their rights in a particular situation is, we talk through, okay, so, we ask them, do you understand the information and do you feel prepared to use it? And if the answer is not yes, then we say, okay, what is it that you don't understand? What more do you need to be able to understand and use the information? But we know that trying to use the information and the skills may not always be successful, depending on how the school system reacts. And so we also then we may do some role plays on the phone. We'll say, okay, well, what are you going to say if the response is this? What might you do if the response is this? Who else might you talk to if the response is this? To really help the parents and students practice those advocacy skills so that when it comes time to actually do them in real life, they feel more confident and more secure in their knowledge and their skills, and they're prepared if things don't go exactly the way they want them to.
Yes.
I would say, helping connect parents to support groups, and even, pulling together youth support groups or opportunities for youth to come together to learn from each other and learn knowledge and skills. At SPAN, we have a regional youth leadership council that includes youth and young adults with disabilities from throughout our region. And on that council, we provide professional development to the youth and young adults based on the things they're interested in. And we also have built up a strong opportunity for them to share their knowledge and their experience and their expertise with professionals at the local, state, and national level to help influence the way that professionals treat youth and young adults when they're trying to exercise their advocacy skills. So I think bringing youth together, bringing parents together is really important. And I think we can also help parents and students by providing professional development and by sharing our stories with professionals so that they understand the challenges that parents and youth with disabilities and children with disabilities are facing, and how the things that professionals do can either make or break our day, our week, our year, and even our life. A caring teacher, a caring administrator who knows the law and who's committed to the best for children and youth with disabilities can really change the trajectory of a student's life. And then that changes the trajectory of the whole family.
Yes, I agree with you because just this youth coming together and having a conversation we've seen how we have been able to create different projects. We created the Hygiene Project. We created the Diary Project, which is the Reading Initiative through the Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands. And it's all because the youth came together and they had a conversation, but they had the opportunity to have this conversation. Any last minute tips you would like to add, Diana?
Believe in yourself, believe in each other, believe in your child, and don't be afraid to ask for help or give it when it's asked for.
Yes, definitely. And all of the resources that Diana mentioned, they are located on our website, www.thedisabilityrightscenter.org, www.drcvi.org. If you don't have access to the internet and you want to give us a call, you can call us at 340-776-4303. Also, we have a YouTube channel, and our YouTube channel features different videos and different topics, and you'll see the archives of all our different shows. If you would like further information, give us a call. Thank you once again, Diana, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been to the U.S. Virgin Islands a few times, and it's such a pleasure, and I'm so happy to be able to support parents of children and youth with disabilities in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Thank you. Ability Radio has been brought to you by Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands. Thank you for listening.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of WTJX, its board, staff, or underwriters.